You're watching News at Prime. Let's get into another important discussion. ActionSA refuses to join the Government of National Unity following a meeting with the ANC today. The party says it remains available, though, to be lobbied on issues on a case-by-case basis. Let's discuss this now with ActionSA's Michael Beaumont. Mr. Beaumont, good evening to you and thank you for your time. Can we start with who asked for the meeting?
Well, certainly the ANC reached out to ActionSA a few days ago via a mutual friend. And I think it was at Herman Mashaba's request that we engage and set up a meeting on that basis. And that meeting took place today. And we're very glad that it took place, Ollie, because ActionSA's strong views about the ANC notwithstanding, we are a political party that has to recognize that the world of politics has become a team sport post the 2024 elections. And even if we will not enter the coalition environment with the ANC or this grand coalition that they are convening, we are responsible for representing the aspirations of many South Africans, and we have a role to play. The idea that you can only participate in this team sport in government is a bad idea, and that is why it was important for us to engage the ANC and to inform them by what we mean of a constructive opposition going forward.
And that explanation is important for you to explain to us, Mr. Beaumont, because I did ask the ANC's office bearer, who was with me, but I beg your pardon, just moments ago, and I'd like to hear from your side. What do you mean when you say you will play a constructive opposition in Parliament? What will that mean in practice?
Well, certainly, let's look at it in the context here, Dolly, of a grand coalition that now has amassed 70% support in Parliament, which is concerning because if we believe that power corrupts, then most certainly absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're going to need a counterbalancing force as an independent opposition party. There's no party that can be driven in blue light German sedans, courtesy of this government, that can really hold itself to account when its own self-interest is permanently going to be balanced against that principle. And that is why we say we need an uncompromised opposition. ActionSA is well poised to play that role, certainly led by someone like Athol Trollip. And what we are saying to our caucus is deal with things on the merit. If this grand coalition brings proposals across your desk that are meritoriously deserving of our support and serve the South African people, support them. But when those times come, that accountability needs to be meted out against a government that is not going to be willing to hold itself to account. ActionSA also needs to be the point of the spear. And that is the relationship that we refer to when we talk about a constructive opposition and the relationship we explained to the ANC when we met with them earlier.
So let's, for example, take NHI. Yes, it is now law, but it has yet to really be actionable. I don't know if I'm using the correct wording here, but I think you understand what I mean. So that policy is very important for universal health coverage in the country, particularly for those who cannot afford. Would ActionSA be willing to say, this is an important policy for the upliftment of these people, therefore, we are going to vote with the ANC and its GNU partners in this regard?
Well, I think the principle is a good principle in that you're referring to a hypothetical scenario of something that is intended to serve the South African people.
Indeed.
And in the principled scenario to which you refer, absolutely ActionSA support would be unequivocal. I think the specific example you use about NHI, however, is different. I think many people, including ActionSA, holds the view that the model that is being adopted here is unaffordable and does not address one of the biggest issues of healthcare right now, which is the failing public healthcare system. We're very fortunate to have in our parliamentary caucus Dr. Kgosile Tlhape, a person who was president of SAMA, the South African Medical Association, and the World Medical Association for that matter. And what we can tell you is that as a constructive opposition, if the ANC wants to sit down and engage our caucus and the expertise of Dr. Jose Letlape in terms of how we can address the shortcomings of the existing NHI legislation that has been passed, ActionSA would be constructive in the interests of the South African people, most definitely.
Yeah. Final question to you, sir. So today we saw the swearing in of members of parliament belonging to the MK party, and they have said today that they are the official opposition, given their large numbers and given where the Democratic Alliance is, at least at the moment, up until this cabinet is resolved. Are you willing to work with the MK party and whoever it is that they are going to be working with in this progressive, I forget the last part of the word, progressive caucus? Thank you for that.
No problem. Firstly, we call it the regressive caucus because I think in many
Why
ways
is that?
those who form part of it represent an acceleration of the status quo that has brought our country to the point where it is. So we do not regard them to be progressive in any shape, way, or form. But let me explain this, Ollie, in terms of what we mean by constructive opposition. That means, on occasions, when it is right for the South African people, we will vote with the Grand Coalition government. On other occasions, when accountability needs to be meted out, if that is the requirement, we may well find ourselves voting with those in the regressive caucus in that particular scenario. But that's what it means to be an independent opposition party. You vote on the merits, you don't vote based on whose idea you're debating.
Michael Beaumont, I think you've explained it all too well. I cannot fault you in any way, shape or form. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Michael Beaumont is the chairperson of ActionSA.